What's so hard to talk about a man's pain? Not the kind you see in the movies, the bruises, the battles, the heroic scar. I'm talking about the kind of a pain you can't see. The pain of walking through life feeling like no one really knows you, of being told since boyhood, be strong, don't cry, be tough, so he does. He tough it out through heartbreaks, through argument where he's frozen, not because he doesn't care, but because he's terrified. Through the jobs that drain him, the friendship that stays shallow, and the love that sometimes feels just out of reach. He becomes the provider, the protector. But deep inside, there is a voice whispering, when it's my turn to be safe. He can't say it because no one taught him how. And over time, the silence becomes the survival, but it also becomes the loneliness. Today, we break that silence. We are not just talking about the man, we are talking to men. Why they shut down, why they fear vulnerability, why they seems okay until though. So, hello, doctor. Welcome to the Samir Show. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Thank you for asking. So, today we're gonna talk about the pain of a man that everyone has. No one wants to talk about the man, never explain that what the pain that he is facing. The pain of walking through the like feelings like no one really knows you. Since the boyhood, everyone's taught that don't cry, be tough, and be strong. So today we are opening the door of the conversations that most men never talk about and never allowed to talk. And the most women are dying to understand. So I would like to invite the Dr. Avrum Weiss, who is a psychotherapist and author of the 4 powerful books and a contributor to Psychology. And today over the 1.5 million views. And his works explore the why men withdraw, the why women feel confused, and how we can build the bridges of understanding that heal generations of the emotional silence. So, doctor, let's begin with the emotional silence that many men lives on, often the misunderstood as a coldness or the disinterest. So, why do men get emotionally withdrawing during the argument, especially with their partners?
Okay. You're jumping right in the deep end. That's fine. But it's gonna require. I've got to do some background in order to answer your question. So we know little kids, boys and girls play together.
Right.
And have very close friendships. Boys with girls, girls with girls, boys with boys. Very emotional, intimate, close friendships. And then around grade school, they segregate. Girls start playing primarily with girls. Boys start playing primarily with boys.
Right.
Now, do you know the games that girls play? Do you know what girls play in their groups?
Mostly like house kind of things being. Yeah.
And what skills are they learning in those play groups? They're learning about relationships.
Exactly.
They're doing
My daughter is always being want to be a mother.
Yeah. So they're practicing their fantasy games in which their wives, mothers, friends, teachers, doctors, all these games they're learning about relationships. So they get pretty good at it.
Right. Agree.
Boys playing with other boys tend to play more games. So the games that girls are playing are preparing them for the role that society expects them to fill.
Agree.
Wife and mother. The boys are playing games to practice the skills for the role society expects them to play, which is aggression and competition.
Correct.
So boys play sports, or boys play fantasy games in which there's less cooperation and more competition. So boys are being prepared to function well in the world of work, not so much in the world of intimate relationships. Okay, then puberty comes. So boys who have mostly thought about girls as sort of cooties and disgusting now get interested again. But the problem is, as I like to say to men, they're playing an away game. It's not a home game. It's an away game. And the ref ain't on their side. So they don't know the rules. They don't know how the game is played. And the girl they're interested in does. So they have gone from the situation they're used to being in, which is one of privilege and power, to a situation in which they feel inadequate and one down.
Right.
So this is a fork in the road for many men. And it goes one of two ways. Smart men, probably you, or you wouldn't be asking this question, look at the situation and they think, I'd like to be closer to other people. I'd like to learn about intimacy, and she seems to know a lot about it. So if I'm smart, I'll learn from her, and I'll be closer to her. I'll be closer to my friends. I'll learn a lot about being close to people, which I would like to do. Not so smart people get defensive, argumentative, competitive, and they say, you can't make me do what you want me to do. You're not the boss of me. And they dig in their heels, right? And so when their wife says, let's talk, he says, can't make me talk.
Right.
Instead of seeing it as an invitation. So now I'm circling all the way back to your question now. Because when men get into intimate relationships, they're not as comfortable with their emotions as women are with their emotions. So as the emotional temperature in the room starts to go up, they get more and more uncomfortable, and they don't have a lot of experience learning how to manage their own emotional life. So they try to turn the volume down. So they turn it down by saying to their partner, you should stop being so emotional, just be rational and serious like me. Or they withdraw. And the misnomer is people think that men are withdrawing, as you say, to be cold, to withdraw. Some people would say it's a power struggle. They're trying to gain the upper hand. I think there's some truth in all that, but I think the main reason men withdraw is that they're unbelievably uncomfortable and they don't know what else to do about it. And that's the only strategy they found. So I'm going to jump in with another question if you want, or I can go a step beyond, like what happens next. Okay, so what happens next is the woman has approached him with the desire to connect. He's pulling further away. So what does she do? She pursues more. She gets more emotional, more insistent, more open about her desire to connect. The more she pursues, the more he withdraws. The more he withdraws, the more she pursues him. So they become polarized to the point where each of them only knows one thing to do. And they're not talking to each other or hearing each other at all. He has no idea that she is interested in being close with him. He thinks she's trying to control him. She has no idea that he's scared and afraid he can't manage his own feelings. She thinks he's just trying to jerk her around and be in charge. They're speaking different languages.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what's going on with each other.
Yeah, exactly. Even every man feels the same. Many times that man is always thinking about the straightforward, right? But the women are thinking about, suppose they are saying something, but they are expecting some more. Like for example, I'm giving you the one example. Suppose if the woman asking a man to peel the potatoes, okay? So man listen that particular task. Okay, she asked me for to peel the potatoes, and he did it, but he didn't throw out that peels to the basket, dustbin, right? She asked about only the peel the potatoes. That's it. But the woman is expect that he has to peel that potatoes, and he has to throw the basket. Throw the peels into the dustbin, and it's throw the dustbin into that outside the dustbin. So it's a 4 task she expected. But the man didn't understand only the one task. He asked me only for the one thing, not the all 4 tasks.
Right.
Right.
So it's not that men are more concrete. Because
Right.
I assure you that same man at work does not do the equivalent of peeling the potatoes and walking away. He
Exactly.
sees, he sees the whole context. But
Right.
in the home, because when he grew up,
Hmm.
his mother never expected anything of him. So
Exactly.
she carried him, she covered for him. So I remember when my first child was born, I didn't know how to give him a bath. My wife was bedridden after the birth, so I had to do everything. I'd never changed a diaper in my life. I'd never given a baby a bath. I'd never done anything.
Hmm.
So the first bath my son got, I'm holding my notes from the childbirth class.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, you don't need notes to give a baby a bath. If you grew up with babies, it's second nature. Just don't put their head underwater. That's all you have to do.
Exactly.
But I was terrified. So women then see men very critically. They say, oh, he just peeled the damn potatoes, and how stupid is he? Doesn't know to put the peel. And the man is like, well, why didn't you tell me the peels? And she's like, what he's not understanding is this is the polarization again. She becomes polarized into the role of the one who's in charge, mother, and he becomes polarized into the role of her child.
Hmm.
Then they start having less sex because she doesn't want to have sex with her child and he doesn't want to have sex with his mother.
Hmm.
So they move into these polarized positions that become asexual positions.
Hmm. I agree. So why so many men has a hypersensitive to even the mild criticism?
Um, you're absolutely right. I can't count the number of times, and I have sat with couples. So she's critical of me is what I hear from men more than anything else. So they say, I can't please her. There's no winning. She's always moving the goalpost. There's no, she's always upset with me and never. Because they don't understand that their approach to pleasing her is to peel the potatoes.
Right.
It's not what she's asking for. She's saying, are you planning on having dinner tonight? Have you given any thought to what we might eat? Chances are the answer is no, because his mother made dinner every night and his wife makes dinner every night, and so he's never had to think about. And when he lived alone, he just called Uber Eats.
Hmm.
So she's saying, I want you to be on the team with me.
Hmm.
I don't want to have to tell you to peel the potatoes. I don't want to be the only one thinking about what's for dinner. I want a teammate. I want a partner. And so when he peels the potatoes like a sullen little boy and then walks away, she's furious because she didn't get anything of what she wanted.
Right. So yesterday it's kind of it's happening. So my mother and they are in India. So they are coming from outside, and there was this very hot weather. So my mother asked my father that it was so hot today. So she's expecting that my father should give the water to her, but she never told to my father, right? She's that seen as the water. She's constantly speaking the below the line words.
Right.
That today is so hot. My father, yeah, it's too hot.
But the truth is, it's
Exactly.
not that she needs to say to him, please get me a glass of water.
Exactly. So I asked the same thing. Did you ask him to bring a water? She said no. So why? He has to understand that I'm thirsty. That's a very hot weather. So he has to bring the water. I said,
That's right.
no. You have to speak something to the father that what actually you need. They say, okay, then it's my fault.
So what I'm saying is that it's not even better would be if your mother said to your father, I don't want to have to tell you that I'm thirsty. I want you to think about if you're thirsty, I'm probably thirsty. I want you to be thinking about me, not just you.
Exactly.
So the other day, it was chilly in the evening, and my wife, we were sitting in the living room watching TV, and she walked all the way upstairs and got a sweater and came back down. I looked at her and I said, did you think about getting me something? It's like, oh no, I didn't. But I don't want, she said, I'll go back and get it. I said, no, it's not that I want the sweater.
Right.
It's that I want you to think about me. I want you to think about what I need too. And it doesn't feel good if you're just thinking about yourself.
I agree. I agree. So that's why that many times that men are struggling to express what they are feeling even to the people to closest to them, right?
Well, they're struggling to know what they're feeling before they're struggling to
I
express.
agree. I agree. Many times man doesn't know what their feelings about.
So let me tell you the metaphor that I use to talk about this with men because it works every time. Just tell men it's just like sex.
Why?
Because sex works best
Yeah.
when I'm thinking about my pleasure and your pleasure, and you're thinking about your pleasure and my pleasure.
Right.
I'll ask men, have you ever had sex with somebody who was only thinking about their own pleasure? They're like, yes, I have. I said, did you enjoy it? No. Or have you ever had sex with somebody who wasn't thinking about their own pleasure at all and was just thinking about your pleasure? Did you enjoy it? No. So that's how emotions go too. It works best when you're thinking about your needs and her needs, and she's thinking about her needs and your needs.
But many times it is not like they are just doing forcefully. Many times it happens like between her.
They're not thinking about her needs. They're just thinking about not getting in trouble, which is not going to work.
Right.
But that's a little boy. That's not a. That's the role of being a little boy. And you're worried about being in trouble. You've gotten polarized into the role of a child. Because adults don't get in trouble with each other. Children get in trouble with their parents.
I agree. But many times it happens. So there are so many couples also, like they don't want to sex, but some way, right, the woman suddenly needs a baby and she is forcingly asked for to having a baby, but they are not doing sex regularly, not even once a month or once like in a quarter. But suddenly that woman needs a baby, then she is asking for to having a sex. So at that time, what a man should do?
Well, the man should wonder why all of a sudden she wants a baby.
Why she wants a baby?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the chances are that she wants the baby for someone to be close with because he's not doing much to be close with her. And so he could change that situation by working on being more emotionally open with her. She might be less preoccupied with having a baby if she felt closer to him.
That is also a possibility, but right nowadays what happened, many times I see that women are like comparing their life with others, like friends.
Sure.
Suppose if one friend has 4 kids, she is also having that kind of a scenario in their mind that even I should have the 2 babies in my future, for my futures, that I need someone to talk, right? I need someone to close to my heart, kind of things.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of a competitions with their friends, or having that mindset about their feeling their relationship weak?
Well, it's not ideal because when you're running your life based on other people's lives, you're not paying enough attention to what you want. And so if you go into a restaurant and everybody's having the steak, that doesn't mean you're going to like it. That means they like it. It might mean it's very good, but maybe you're not in the mood for steak. Maybe you want chicken. And so just ordering the steak because everybody's ordering it may or may not make you happy.
Yeah, I agree. So what roles does the shame play in the emotional lives of a man?
What does what play in the emotional?
What roles does the shame play?
Shame.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the emotional lives of a man.
Sure. Well, shame plays, unfortunately, a fairly large role in the emotional lives of men. And the reason is that in my world of people who study things like masculinity and gender, those are my colleagues, people who study those things. We use a concept we call fragile masculinity.
Fragile? Sorry, come again. Fragile?
Fragile masculinity.
Okay.
And the idea behind it is that it is our experience and our belief that femininity is natural for women, and they don't question whether or not they are feminine. But in our culture, masculinity, men are not taught to feel that they are born masculine, but rather that masculinity is something they have to earn and then defend always. Because we define masculinity negatively. We don't have attributes that we think are masculine. We more define masculinity as not feminine. So then for a man, anything he does that suggests to anyone else that he's feminine creates shame, because that's judged as being not masculine. Unfortunately, in our culture, tenderness, intimacy, vulnerability, warmth, connection, attachment are all thought of as feminine values. So in order to be thought of as a man, you can't let people know that you're interested in closeness, that you want to be vulnerable with somebody, that you're a tender person, that you're a generous person, that you're a warm. Those are all forbidden to men. And so men walk around with a deep sense of shame that some hidden feminine part of themselves will sneak out and someone will see it and they'll be deeply shamed. So the original name I wanted for the book, but the publishers wouldn't go along, is I wanted to call the book Pussy Whipped.
Pussy Whipped?
Pussy Whipped. You know the expression?
No.
Oh. So pussy whipped is the worst thing that a man can say to another man.
Okay.
And what they're saying is, like, if you say to a guy, we're going out to the game tonight, you want to join us? And he says, my wife wants me home. That's pussy whipped. That you don't make your own decisions. But think about, so pussy is slang for vagina. So they're saying you're being run by your need, your life is being run by your need to please a woman, but please her in a particular way sexually. They're saying your life is, you're not a man because you need a woman.
I agree. That's a dilemma of every man. So many times the man is follow the instructions of the woman, that his own partner, right? But the problem is that if they try to please her partner, the partner sometimes you are not thinking your own, I have to instruct many times, right? To do, right? Many times the partners or the man doesn't want to fight or doesn't want to have the arguments to create a big battle, right? In the argument.
Why don't men want to fight?
Because the man, suddenly what happens, right? When a man trying the conversation with his partner, right? He knows at some point the battle will start.
So why avoid it? I mean, if he's out there in the basketball court with a bunch of guys, he's not worried about conflict. If somebody
exactly
get in his face and say foul, they're worried about conflict
because he knows that rules. That's the rules can define that where it got be foul, right? But here they talk about there is no rule. That rules is defined by his partner, not him. That's why.
So I want to invite you and your listeners to Google and to look at a social science experiment called the Still Face Experiment.
Okay.
STILL. The researcher was Dr. Tronick, TRONICK. So he did a series of experiments in which they filmed mothers and infants interacting with each other. They did a split screen so you can see them both at the same time. And it's very clear. So you mentioned your daughter, so you have children. So you remember when they were babies, there's a relationship, even though they can't talk yet. So you make a funny face and they laugh. Or they do something cute and you smile. So you're teaching each other what each other like. Right? Oh, that got dad to smile. That's a good one. I'll do that again. Okay. Because humans are the only creatures who are born completely dependent at birth. We can't feed ourselves. We can't walk. We can't do anything. So human infants need their parents to take care of them. It's life and death. So we have to be cute and adorable and likable or we'll die. So then in the experiments, they had the moms turn away for a second and turn back with what they said was a still face, meaning just blank. Not critical, not angry, not disapproving, just blank. What do you think happened to the babies?
The babies maybe more curious about.
You'd think so. The babies fell apart within minutes. Started screaming. Some of the babies got so upset that they lost control of their bowels and bladder. Some babies were so upset they couldn't sit up anymore. Because not having your mom respond to you is threatening death. If your mom doesn't respond to you, you're going to die.
Right.
So if your mom has a blank face, you are in grave danger.
That's interesting.
Interestingly, male babies got more upset and stayed more upset longer than the female babies. And then you go and you look at the science about conflict in heterosexual relationships. What do you know? Men get more upset in heterosexual conflict and they stay upset longer.
But do you think that when man gets more upset, the woman still feel the same that men are getting upset? Many times it happens. That even in my relations also many times it happens. Suppose I'm feeling sad and I want to talk to my partner, right? And she's also started crying. But she only want to focus on herself on many times. That if I'm crying, she said, you are a man, so it's okay for you. Being a woman, that I have many things happen into my body, kind of a hormonal changes and so many things. So at that times, that many times every man, I'm sure that every man is thinking about that. There is no feeling for the man that if he cries, that is okay, because it's almost taught from the boyhood that he should not have the cry, he should be tough. At that time, what try to convince that partner at that? What should the communication should be?
Okay, it's a great question, but again, it requires a little background. So I have been asking people for the last few years, I've been asking women, because I notice this pattern that you're talking about again and again, and I notice how critical women can be of men. So I'm wondering what's going on that I'm not seeing. So I started asking women, what did you learn about men from your mother? Both in what she said to you and the way she behaved towards your father. And mostly what women told me, not entirely, but in the majority of cases, women told me what they learned from their mother about men was to not trust them, not turn to them for closeness, always have your own money, don't expect much from them. So they basically learned not a lot of respect for men. And so that is in the air in most heterosexual marriages. Because women have this acculturation of being sort of condescending towards men, not thinking much of men. And here they are in an intimate relationship with a man. So when he cries, what we have to help those women understand is that your first response to that may be to dismiss it, but it is in fact exactly what you've been looking for. And if you can block out some of the negative socialization that you got from your mother and the culture, you would realize that this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for the kind of closeness that you've been asking for years.
I agree. So how can the woman tell when their partner is afraid of them but hiding it behind the silence or defensiveness?
I would say assume straight men are always afraid of women. And the more personal and the more intimate becomes and the more emotional it becomes, the more they're afraid. So a safe working assumption is, particularly if he's behaving like a jerk, assume he's scared.
So can you just give me that more context about that?
About which part?
That the man is like sometimes behaving like a jerk.
Okay. So go back to the still face experiment. If you are a heterosexual man interested in women, Now you are trying to have an intimate relationship with somebody who is the same gender as your mother was.
Okay.
Who was your primary caregiver. So your earliest life experiences are of moments of being completely focused on making sure your mother likes you and is taking care of you. Your life depends on it. And being panicked anytime it seems she doesn't like you or approve you or pay attention to you. Now you fall in love with a woman, and guess what? Emotionally, the same thing happens all over again. You fall in love with an adult woman, and you become panicked at the thought that she's not paying attention to you, not validating you, not taking care of you. All the things you were scared about with your mother, you become scared about with your partner. For men, it recreates the same early experience that we talked about in the still face experiment. So I had a guy tell me once that he knew when his wife was upset with him the moment he walked in the front door. Before he ever saw her, he believed that he could just feel in the air whether or not his wife was upset with him. And of course, what you hear in that story is how it was so important to him to know if his wife was upset with him. Like,
I lost your voice. I lost your voice.
my microphone's still connected.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So let's back to what's the one thing that women often don't understand about the man, but desperately need to understand.
The one thing that women need to understand desperately more than anything else is that men are scared of them. That a lot of the behaviors that they object to in men are an expression of fear, not control. That a lot of the withdrawal and the controlling and things that women get together and talk with each other about not liking are more an expression of fear than they are of control.
Yeah. Every man needs a kind of things that he just wanted to, his family wanted to be happy. So whenever he comes to home, that he would like to be a relax, right? That he fight for the whole world, that throughout his job, throughout his like outside world, outside relationships kind of thing. And when he wants to come home, that he wants to be relaxed and the peace of mind. But many times it doesn't happen. That suppose the women are alone in the home, right, and they are taking care of the children, and somehow the children are getting very aggressive to their mom. So they want to take all out the depressions to whenever that husband will come, that she wants to just spit out all the aggressions, right? The man wants to peace at the home, but somehow that woman starting getting the argument that today the children did all this stuff and I'm getting frustrated. I don't want to live anymore in this house, kind of things. At that time, man, what should do?
Well, if you're saying that in a family in which the woman is staying home with the children, sounds like you're using that as an example. Understand that the days you've had are very different. If you're the guy, you've been at work having connection and relationship with people all day long, so you want it to be a little quieter, but she's been alone without another adult around. Maybe she connected somewhere with a friend, but she misses you and misses adult company. So what she's looking for when you come home is very different. And so usually what I say to men is, you need to come home ready for your second job. And your second job is to be a dad and a husband. And you don't get the privilege of just relaxing when you walk in the house, because she doesn't get to just relax anytime during the day. Why would you get to do that? You need to work that out between you. So, she may say, well, look, if you'll feed the kids dinner, I'm going to go take a hot bath and then I'll put them to bed. You're working out however you're working out. But you have to work it out based on what you each need. You have to be as interested in what your partner needs as you do in what you need. So if you just walk home and say, here's what I want, it's not going to go well.
But there's a real-time scenario that's happened recently with my friends. That's why I want to talk about. What if the man is already doing the work from home? 24/7, he's at home only. Okay, suddenly that he has some kind of a target or he has some delivery issues. Like for the last 5-10 days that he has some very critical issues with the client. So he's constantly on the phone call and the woman is expecting time with him. So he's constantly hammering to that husband also that this is not a tolerable. I'm not gonna stay anytime in this house. I need a time. You have to do some workout for this one. I'm not gonna tolerate all this. So man is getting frustrated that he is also doing the work for the company, for the house, that he has to fit to their house also, right? At that time, what men should do?
Well, what's missing from your equation? There's a big piece missing.
Which one?
The piece that's missing is his interest in anything other than work.
I agree, but he has to do, right? There is no choice of it. Something man has to do.
Just like she has to do her job. But the difference is she's interested in him being part of the family and he's not showing any interest in being part of the family. So of course she resents that. She doesn't want to be in it alone. So she's got lots of things that she needs to do too, but she makes it clear to him, I want to spend some time with you. He's not making it clear to her, it sounds like, that he's interested in her and interested in the kids. And I think that's the problem. And if he would be as interested in his family as he is in his job, I think things would go a lot more smoothly.
Yeah, that is also true.
So when my kids were little, my wife stayed home.
Okay.
For a short time, but mostly she stayed home. And what I found worked for me was I just assumed, okay, when I walk in the door, we're going to assume that we're both even, that your day sucked as much as mine did. That we both had difficult days. Now, let's just assume we're even. Yours wasn't worse than mine or better than mine or neither. It doesn't matter. But from the minute I walk in the door, we're going to split everything evenly from here. We're going to assume that we both had the same kind of day. So now let's divide up the work in a way that makes most sense. Like there are things I like to do and things I don't like to do. Things you like to do, things you don't like to do. Let's make the best of it until, thank God, the kids go to sleep and we can relax.
I agree. So underneath all this emotional distance is something darker, like loneliness, and it's still growing. So why are so many lonely, and how does that loneliness impact their emotional and relational life?
That's a great question. So you mentioned I write for Psychology Today, and by the way, it's 3 million views, not 1.5 million views.
Wow.
And, yeah, and the most popular article I've ever written was an article about men and loneliness that was read 1 million times.
Okay.
So it struck a nerve. You know, it resonated with men and women how lonely men are. And men are lonely because, going back to that socialization, men are taught to not have friends, to not be close, to not need other people, to not be vulnerable, to not be intimate. And so they're taught to focus on work, like your friend. And so he's primarily got his eyes on work, and he's doing great there, and he's achieving and getting lots of validation, but he's not paying as much attention to the relationships in his life. Both his primary relationship and friendships. So many, many men, when they get divorced, think that they have lots of friends. But what they have are acquaintances or friends of their wives. And then they get divorced and they're like, oh, I'm actually all by myself. My wife did such a good job of covering that it made it look like I had relationships. But without her, I realize, and most men are largely alone. When you ask a man, do you have friends? They say, of course I have friends. I got buddies. I got people to do things with. I say, yeah, no. What I meant is friends that you talk with the way you talk with me. And they're like, oh no, I don't have anybody like. And it's rare in my experience to meet a man who has a close male friend, which is terribly sad.
Yeah.
I have friends, I've been friends with for 50 years. You know, imagine how well we know each other. We speak once a week. We've been friends for 50, I just got off the phone with him, in fact. 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's really commendable. So that is happening to, it's like a transition, right? When there is a boys, there are lots of friends, but when they will start getting growing, after they getting jobs, hardly one or two friends in their life they can share with us.
Because we don't give them much of a choice, because we tell them, you know, you don't need that. You should concentrate on work. You should be a success. You should support your family. And boys are very close with each other.
Right.
But as they become young men, they lose that contact. They lose that connection.
Do you feel that men always have a kind of a pressure to being in the competitive environment, to want to be a good employees, or want to be a good boss, or want to be a good father, or want to be a good son? Do you think that competitive kind of things or that feelings makes them more depressive nowadays?
No question about it. It makes them more unhappy, because that's not a satisfying life by itself.
Yeah.
Nobody on their deathbed, maybe some weird person, but most people on their deathbed do not think, oh, I wish I'd gotten that promotion, or I wish I made more money. And that's not, when you get to the end of your life, what you think about are who you loved and who loved you. Yeah, and so men are kind of sold a bill of goods. You know, we're handed the short end of the stick and told be satisfied with it. And I think a lot of men are very unhappy because one of the questions I like to ask men is, what color are your children's eyes?
You never know.
They don't always know.
Yeah.
You know? Well, how much time have you spent, in a heart-to-heart conversation with them if you don't know the color of their eyes? Or a guy I was working with once, this was not a very nice thing that I said I'll take responsibility for, but he said to me, he was thinking about getting divorced. And he said, wow, if I got divorced, I would only see my kids every other weekend. And I said, yeah, that'd be a big increase, wouldn't it? Because he never ever spent 2 whole days along with his kids. So if he got divorced, he would see his kids more. And I'm not being critical of men. I want to be very clear. I'm not being critical of men. That's not something I feel critical about. It's something I feel terribly sad about. So, for example, I always say to men, get up in the middle of the night with your kids when they're babies. Oh, I can't do that. I got to get up and go to work. I'm like, the middle of the night is the only unsupervised time you will have with your children.
I agree.
Get up in the middle of the night with them. You will love it. It is wonderful time with your children. You just hold them and you play a game. Whatever you do. It's great. And a lot of men, their kids grow up, they never gotten up in the middle of the night once with them. They don't know what that's like. And it's a very intimate, the middle of the night, it's a very intimate time. It's very quiet, peaceful. It's delightful. So you're a little tired the next day.
Yeah, I agree. Even I feel the same thing every midnight. So I'm sleeping with my daughters, right? In the middle of night, suddenly that she woke up and, where is my dad? Where is my dad? And she started like love me on my cheeks and kiss me.
It's a great feeling.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. I really liked it. That's one. So how do the men cope up when they feel emotionally isolated but don't know how to ask for the help?
That's a great question. Again, I like your questions. So one of the chapters in the book that I'm most excited and most proud of is that there's a chapter that addresses that question. And it basically says to men, start a book group. Use this book and put up a note at your church or your work or whatever. Make a few phone calls. Find people who might like to get together and talk about this book. Because if you do that, the book is so much personal that if you get together with other men to talk about the book, it will be you're not going to talk about work and sports. You're going to talk about much more personal, intimate, emotional things. And then probably if you get together a few times and you talk about the book, you might keep getting together. You might become an ongoing group that gets together for dinner every couple of weeks and starts to talk to each other. So I think the book, making a book group out of the book can be a great way to start.
Okay. So in your book, like as you said, it's almost 3 million views, right? So do you get any kind of a comments that what the most critical or the spike movement, or what is the chapters that the most people like about that from that book? Why mostly people that read that book? What's trigger them to read that book?
Well, interestingly, slightly more women than men read my stuff on Psychology Today. So I think men read the book for a different reason than women. I think men read the book because they read the title and they go, oh, I think somebody might actually understand what I'm going through. And so I think men read it because they're excited that so many books are so anti-male and so critical of men. And I think they see from my book that it is very pro-male, and I would like to think has a pretty good understanding of the internal lives of men. And so I think they're excited and want to know themselves better, is why they read the book. For women, you know, when I say to a man who I'm just meeting, they say, well, what do you do for a living? I say, I'm a writer. They say, what are you working on? I say, well, I just wrote a book about why men are afraid of women. Men, I get the same response every time. Their first response is they get defensive. They kind of bow up, sit up straight, and they want to fight me. You know, like, that's bullshit. But within a minute or two, they're like, oh, it actually makes a lot of sense. And then we start talking and it just ripples out, because a lot of things that didn't make sense before start to make sense once you understand it through this lens. Women, I have the same conversation. They say, what are you writing about? I say, men are afraid of women. They just look at me like, well, that's not true. That can't be right. That's not possible. I'm like, yeah, it is true. And it's true of most straight guys, and you just don't know about it. And so women are dying to understand. Men are opaque to women. They don't understand us because we don't do a very good job of talking about ourselves.
Exactly. Not even express many times.
Yeah. So if you go into any bookstore, you will find a big section of books written for women about how to understand men, explaining men to women. Unfortunately, and I don't understand this, a lot of those books are written by women. So if I wanted to understand Indian immigrants to the United States, I wouldn't ask somebody from China. I'd ask somebody who immigrated, right? I'd ask somebody who knows what I want to learn about.
Yeah.
So for women to try to learn about men from women doesn't make much sense to me. And there just aren't a lot of books written by men to help women understand men. So I think that's what women are after, is to understand the stranger they're married to.
Right. So right now, as we are talk about that India recently, right? So in India right now, from the last 1 year I'm talking about, there are lots of cases happening where the women are getting married to a man, but somewhere that she doesn't love to that man, and she just ran away with her boyfriend, and she started planning and give the kind of she already murdered to their own partner. More than 500 cases happening right now in India recently. So I don't know what is happening with the relationship. Many happens that women are asking for the alimony immediately, like it's kind of a business plan they have it. One woman, you know, that one woman got married to the 7 people, and they don't know each other, and she got alimony from all that 7 men. Is it right now? Even many, I say, live telecasts, I can say the live, the reality shows. Many women are like talking about that. I'll have a plan that I'll get married to a rich man, and I'll get a divorce, and I'll take a 200 crores of money with an alimony. What kind of mentality is happening right now in this world? Man wants to be in the relationship, but the woman always wants to be like thinking about the money and the power, nothing else.
Well, I don't doubt that the examples you give are real and genuinely happen. However, that is not the majority of cases. After divorce, a shocking number, and I don't know in India, in this country, a shocking number of women live below the poverty level after divorce. So divorce is not good news financially for most women. There may be women out there who are making a living at it, but by and large, it doesn't go well for women to be divorced. So my guess about the phenomena that you're talking about would be that the first marriage, I'm just guessing, I don't know anything about it, but my guessing would be that the first marriage, because I know a little bit about your culture and how rigid the gender roles are in much of Indian culture. That be a fair statement?
Yeah.
So my guess would be that she might be looking for a man who's a little bit less of a traditional man. She might be divorcing and remarrying because she would like a partner who's more interested in being emotionally close with her and less in a partner who's more in a traditional masculine role.
That could be a possibility, but somehow when I comparison, like the husband is more capable right now. I know that she loves someone, but maybe she's not thinking about the future things. She's thinking about the current emotional situations, kind of things.
You know, men love to tell stories about situations in which women take advantage of men.
Yeah.
All over the internet. Men love to tell those stories. It's just not the majority of the case. So, married men are happier, healthier, and wealthier than single men. Marriage works really well for men. Single women are happier, healthier, and wealthier than married women. Marriage does not work as well for women. They're not happier, they're not healthier, and they ain't wealthier. They do better single. And so part of what's probably happening in these 500 cases is happening all around the world, which is that as women become more capable of financially supporting themselves, they don't need a man financially. And a lot of, like my grandparents, their marriage was a financial partnership. I don't think they even liked each other.
Yeah.
They married to start a business together and to raise a family. And it was a very pragmatic, practical agreement. But that's not what we want now. And so women don't need men to support them as much anymore. And so then we have to find a different basis for marriage than our grandparents did. It has to be about something other than money because women are not as financially dependent as they used to be. So if they're going to stay in their marriages, there has to be another reason.
That is also true. But there is a condition that I'm talking about, okay, in the Indian cultures that mostly it happenings right now. Right now, the love marriage is also happening, but mostly that more than 80% that arranged marriage is happening.
Right.
Now I'm telling you the situations.
Yep.
Now the man has earning a lot of money. Let's say I'm talking about in the US dollars. Okay. Let's say that $150,000 per year. Okay. Now the woman is earning only the $60,000. Okay. Or either that she's not earning. Let's consider she's not earning. So that man is getting married to that girl. That is okay. Now take a vice versa. Man is not earning, but she is earning too much. Okay. She never wants to get married to that particular man who is earning less.
Right.
She always looking for a man who wants it or he earn more than that her own salary. She always looking for that kind of a people.
Well, it just doesn't match my experience. I keep meeting women who are married to men who don't work. Women who are high achieving, successful, make a good salary, and their husbands don't work. They don't take care of the kids. They don't cook. They don't clean. They don't do anything. And these women put up with that. So I'm completely puzzled about the opposite side of the equation. Like, what is going on there?
Right. But this is happening right now. That's why I'm just wanting to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean that's as much as I know because I don't know, I don't know what's going on in India, so I can only speculate.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let's talk about what happening when the silence become the unbearable when the relationship collapse. So why do so many men feel blindsided by divorce, saying, I didn't see it coming?
I think the obvious answer is they're not very connected. They're not paying a lot of attention to what's going on in their marriage. I think if your wife leaves you and you had no idea, you were not very close with her and you weren't paying much attention because she probably didn't wake up Wednesday morning and decide to divorce you. She's probably been thinking about it for a long time and tried everything she could to tell you. She tried every way she knew how to tell you how unhappy she was, and you missed all of it. There's an old joke about the end of the world comes by flood, and the guy's on the roof of his house and he's waiting for God to rescue him.
Okay.
So somebody comes by in a canoe and says, can I rescue you? The guy says, no, God's going to take care of me. Somebody comes by in a rowboat. Guy says, no, God's going to take care of me. Somebody comes by in a powerboat. Each time he turns down the help and says, God's going to. So he dies. He drowns.
Yeah.
And he goes
and he asks, why didn't you come to get me?
Yeah, he says, God, why didn't you? And God says, I sent the canoe. I sent the rowboat. I sent the. He had in his mind help's going to come in this particular way. And meanwhile, everybody's trying to help him and he's not paying any attention. So that's what I think's going on in those marriages. Like, I think his wife's been telling him every way she knows how. That's what affairs are, by the way. We get so bent out of shape, like affairs are morally reprehensible and only bad people. But affairs are when people get to that point in a relationship where they're just so desperate and they've tried everything they know how to do to talk about it, and it doesn't get any better. And so then they get desperate and they start behaving badly. But people don't start out there.
Yeah.
It's the end of a long string of frustrations.
Yeah, totally agree. So what emotional patterns do you see in generally in men going through after the divorce?
Well, I think they're usually very, very surprised because they think that they underestimate the importance of the relationship in their lives. For example, if you're married and you have a spouse who stays home and takes care of the children, whether it be male or female, you earn more money if you have a spouse who stays home. You want to guess how much more, percentage-wise, how much more do people who are married and have a stay-at-home spouse make than people who are either whose spouse works or are single? You want to guess?
No idea.
50% more.
Okay.
So men are getting that 50% help from their wives and they're not appreciating it or recognizing it. So they think their lives are just going to go on the way it did, only they don't have to deal with this person they don't like anymore. They don't see the ways in which their partner has been supporting them and helping them in 1,000 different ways, because women are trained to help quietly, seamlessly, without anybody noticing. And so, dinner just appears on the table, and then you have to cook dinner, and you haven't ever cooked dinner, and you don't know how to cook dinner, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happens.
Okay. So why do many men rush into the new relationship right after the divorce, and it's way to avoid the grief?
Because they are terrified of being alone, because they don't know it, because their wife takes care of everything for them. And yes, it is typically the man who starts dating sooner and who remarries sooner, even though they've been taught to not need a woman. They clearly do, because the minute they're alone, they panic and they do everything they can to fill the void and get somebody to be sleeping in bed next to them at night.
Do you believe that right now it's a research says that in near future, no one's want to get married, either the woman or the man? Okay.
Well, it's going that way.
Yeah, right now it's going that way, right? Because I think because of that career or the competitions kind of thing, still many times that man needs a feminine, right? He knows that how to handle the home, so he needs a kind of a woman. Right now the woman is also earning so many things, right? we are like in the era of the woman empowerment. Many times in India also that it's happening that if the women start earning, they believe that we don't need a husband anymore, that I'm earning myself. There is no need who provide me the feed me.
Right.
Do you think that what is the situations that can make that both should come into the same page?
I think we're going to need to rethink what marriage, since more than half of marriages end in divorce. So if, you know, if half the things your company tried to do lost money, you would rethink what you're doing in your company. You wouldn't just keep doing the same things. So we need to rethink what marriage is. And I have an unusual proposal about that. Although I must say I have not yet done it in my own life, but maybe I'll get brave enough to do it after this. But I think marriages should be 5-year renewable contracts.
Okay.
I think every 5 years, couples should reconsider whether they want to be together. Not to make it easier to split up, but so that it will never go more than 5 years without talking about if there's a problem. So hopefully at the 5 years, both people say, definitely sign me up for 5 more years. I'm pretty confident that's what my wife would say, and that's what I would say. But if she wasn't happy and we came to the 5 years and she said, well, I'm mostly happy, but there are some things I'm not. Well, then we would have to talk about it, because we would have to renew our contract and we both have to sign on. And so we know that at least every 5 years, we're going to talk about how things are going. When's the last time you and your wife talked about how are things going in the relationship? You only talk about that when you have a fight.
Right.
Nobody ever stops to talk about it when it's going well. So hopefully what happens in 5 years is we redeclare our love for each other, and maybe we make a few little tweaks. And so I think that would be one, but people smarter than me will come up with ideas too. But I think marriage has been mostly a financial partnership. We get a tax break for being married, all these things. So I think we need to find other things to base marriage on, because it doesn't need to be a financial partnership anymore.
Yeah.
So we need to rethink marriage as an emotional partnership. And then the other thing is, if we get to the 5 years and my wife is terribly unhappy with me, I don't want to wait 3 more years to find that out. I want to know, and hopefully we can do something about it, but maybe we can't, in which case I would say, I'll miss you terribly, but I love you and I want you to have a good life. And if you can't have a good life with me, I don't want you to stay.
So in your life, that maybe that you talk to so many men, did any man come to you and they suddenly want to end their life? They wanted to end their life.
Yeah, sure. I mean, fortunately, it doesn't happen that often, but of course, I've been a therapist for over 40 years. Of course it happens.
So what's your first question to ask them?
Well, I don't know about the first question, but actually, I just had this conversation with a group of therapists I teach and train. And I think the first question you have to ask yourself as a therapist is, who's responsible for this decision? The decision about whether or not he's going to live. Is he responsible for that, or do I think I'm responsible for that? Now, legally, we've passed some unfortunate laws which make therapists responsible. So if you are my patient and you start talking to me about you want to kill yourself, I'm responsible to keep you alive. So I have to then put you in the hospital. If you say, I'm definitely going to kill myself, I have a gun, I have the bullets, and Wednesday I'm killing myself, I have to call 911 and have you put in the hospital. Okay. The problem is that doesn't really help, and it violates your trust. Now, you're not going to open up with me. If I lock you up, you're not going to open up with me anymore.
Yeah.
So if you take it the other way and you say you are responsible for whether you live or die, I'm a consultant to you, I'm your advisor, and I can certainly tell you what I think about it, but I don't want to take away that responsibility. Some people attempt suicide in an impulsive way. Like when a 14-year-old tries to kill himself, that's impulsive. How bad could your life be at 14, right? Because you haven't lived long enough. But when somebody who's in their 50s and has been chronically unhappy for 20, 30 years, and they've tried everything, and they're just miserable, and they wake up in the morning and they can't believe they have to go through another day. I don't know if that's getting better for them. And I don't know if it's up to me to decide whether life is worth living or not. So, more states are going to, my state has a right to die law, which is you can go and interview with a physician and say, here's why I want to die. And if the physician thinks that you're of sound mind, they will write you a prescription for the medicine to take your life, and they will come to your house and administer the medicine. You have a right to end your own life. So I think that's the direction we're going to go in. I think we're going to give people that right. It's something like 90% of the money that you're going to spend on your health in your life is going to all be spent in the last 6 weeks of your life. We're going to do horrible things to you. We're going to keep you alive when you don't want to stay alive. We're going to spend a fortune keeping you alive for 6 weeks, and then you're going to die anyway.
And is it legal?
So what if you just decided, I don't want to go through those 6 weeks. I'm going to be dead in 6 weeks anyway. I'd rather save the money, leave it to my kids, and die peacefully, not in pain. Because, we forget, we are actually all going to die.
Yeah, definitely.
If you die, we're talking about how you die. And so we're beginning to develop this concept of a good death, which nobody ever used to use. But a good death is a death of your own choosing. A good death is you kiss your wife goodnight and then you don't wake up in the morning painless, and that's what we all hope for.
Yeah, I think that would be the great death then.
Well, now we're starting to make that legal, that you can make that choice yourself, that if you get God forbid you get a diagnosis of terminal cancer and the doctor says you're going to be dead in 3 months, it's going to cost your family $5 million and you're going to be in agonizing pain every day.
Better to do it right now.
Oh, I don't know if it's better or not, but I do think it's your decision.
Yeah, that's definitely.
I don't think the state should step in and tell you what you should do.
Yeah. So last 2 questions.
Okay.
If someone feels stuck emotionally, professionally, or in the relationship, how can they begin to change?
Well, that's a year course, right? That's not a quick course. So I would refer you to the second book I wrote called Change Happens.
Change Happens. Okay.
When to try harder and when to stop trying so hard. And the book is all about the answer to your question, which is basically all of life is like a river. So we would what's the spiritual term? I'm blocking on the name for the flow of it. Not chi, it's I can't think of it. I'll think of it. But think of life like a river. It's always moving. Rivers don't stand still.
Yeah.
So as long as you're in your life, thinking, interacting, being challenged, loving, being loved, you're always going to keep changing because the river keeps moving.
Exactly.
When you stop changing is you've gotten out of the flow. That's the word I'm looking for, the Buddhist word, flow. When you get stuck, it's because you're off in an eddy someplace.
Right.
Just going round and round and round, but the current's right over here. If you get yourself back in the current, so back in the ways to get back in the flow could be making love with your wife, having an intimate conversation with a friend, exercising, meditating, pray. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to do it, but they all do the same thing. They all put you back in the flow, and then things change because, in 7 years, every single cell in your body will be replaced.
Yeah, agree.
7 years from now, you're going to be a completely different person. You can't help it. You didn't do anything.
Right.
Change is happening all the time, always.
Yeah, that's the same philosophy of my life, that I always want to be a river, that I have to be go in the flow.
That's right. That's right.
If I'm gonna stuck somewhere, definitely it will hurt my body and my mind too.
Yeah, and I think this is why people get depressed, because they stop doing the things that keep them alive. So when my in-laws died, I knew they were going to die because they stopped living. They weren't sick. They just decided that they were old, and they stopped doing the things that they love to do. And I said, they're going to die.
Yeah.
And they did.
So last question, how can a man break the cycle of emotional avoidance and build healthier relationship moving forward?
Build closer relationship with other men.
Other men, okay.
Start a book group. find a way, start a men's group at your church, or find a men's group to be in, or start a book group. Find a way of having closer relationship with men is the beginning point, is the starting point.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Let's have a rapid fire round. That's a one word option that I'll give.
One word, okay.
Yeah. So what do the most men want more in a relationship but won't say it? To be respected or to be held?
Held. By far, overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
And they don't know it.
Yeah, mostly. When a man goes silent during a fight, what's more likely happening? He's angry or he's scared?
Scared. Also doesn't know it.
Yeah. What hurts a man more deeply? Being criticized or being ignored?
Ignored, like the still face experiment.
Yeah.
Can't live without it.
What do a man fear more in intimacy? Losing control or being truly seen?
Well, they're hoping to be truly seen is what they're after. Yeah.
But don't you think that losing control is also that could be the cause?
Well, you have to relinquish control in order to be seen. If you tightly manage what you show somebody, you're never going to be seen because you're not letting yourself be seen. You have to let go of the control to be seen.
Right. What keeps the more men stuck in the bad relationship? Comfort or guilt?
Guilt.
Which emotions do men mask the most? Sadness or shame?
Shame.
What's more terrifying for emotionally distant men? Being alone or being known?
Known.
What's the most dangerous myth for men? Real men don't cry or love is weakness?
Love is weakness.
What makes a man walk away from love? Fear of failure or fear of being controlled?
Fear of failure.
And the last, what's the harder for men to say? I need help or I'm hurt?
Toss up 50-50. Probably I need help.
I need help. Yes, I agree.
That's why men die 7 years younger than women, because they don't go to the doctor.
Yeah, agree. It's really wonderful conversations. I really, you taught me a lot about the men
Thank you.
psychology also and the woman psychology also. Thank you so much for being guest.